What's up, Awoken TV? How's everybody doing today? I'm just organizing myself over here while you guys take a moment to jump on. Jump on, jump on, jump on. I just want to make sure I'm live. There I am. All right, so say hello. If you guys are jumping on, there we go. Okay, and if you are here, drop me a quick comment so that I know that the comments are working. That way I can shut off my phone and I won't have to look back and forth between them. So let me know. Thank you, Joy. Thank you. Thank you. Happy Friday, beautiful. How are you doing? Hope you're doing well. We've had so much energy moving between that eclipse that we had with the full moon. And now on the new moon on June 10th, which is on Thursday of next week, we're going to be having a solar eclipse for the new moon. Hi, Catherine. So good to see you. Very happy to have you. So yeah, so there's been a lot of there's this portal that exists between these two moons, and there's been so much energy swimming around that's kind of stirring up and excavating all of that old stuff, right? That we've been feeling stagnant with, or that has been kind of stuck within our field. So it's a really powerful time to be doing our energy work. So definitely, if you have some things that you need to look at that you feel like, I don't quite understand what's going on here, I really encourage you to ask what's hidden, right? Like ask your spirits, ask your soul, ask your higher self, what is hiding right now? Like, what is it that I'm not seeing? What's unseen that I need to excavate or move forward? So this is a good time for that. And today is my youngest birthday. Yay! Happy birthday to her. She's such a cutie pie. She's turning 6 today. That's my youngest of 3. Joy said she's doing great, enjoying my travels through the Akashic energy, still getting lightheaded. Yeah, you might, honey. I mean, I do too, but I actually pulled a card this morning that told me to ground. And we all need to ground right now with all this energy that's swirling around. We definitely need to ground. So definitely just continue. You might even find that you do better with it, Joy, when you're sitting on the earth and opening your records or snacking at the same time, although that can kind of interfere, but any kind of grounding activities at the same time that you're opening the records. Thank you, Sam. So good to see you. Very nice to have you here live for sure. So friends, so this is what I did. So the last time that I asked a question on my feed, I can't even remember what it was about. Oh, healing versus empowerment. I got so many responses, and it was so wonderful because it was really offering these different perspectives, right, for us to bring to the Akash, for us to talk about in this collective space. So I did the same thing this time, and this is on limits versus boundaries. And it's really fascinating to see the differences that come forward and how people are integrating this into their field. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. If there's anybody that you know that could benefit from this conversation, please tag them, share this out, whatever you feel called to. For those of you who have never been to Awoken TV before, I definitely encourage you to check it out a little further. Okay. This is like a spiritual and metaphysical Netflix for you. So you're going to find other shows like this. You're going to find films by conscious filmmakers. You're going to find courses at www.awoken.tv. You can also find it on the App Store for convenience. So you could check it out there as well. But it's a really beautiful community of humans and souls who are here to assist you with your journey on this planet. And for those of you who are not familiar with me, my name is Laura Mazzotta, and I am an Akashic healer and teacher. I've also been a therapist for almost 20 years in New York, and I recently switched over entirely from traditional therapy to Akashic healing because I just fully believe that this is the most effective and efficient route to deep, long-lasting health and wellness. Okay. So yes, Catherine, it's so good to welcome, welcome, welcome. So good to have you. And also, any of you who are watching this either on Emerge Healing and Wellness, which is my Facebook page, feel free to jump over there if you want, or in a group like my private Facebook group, Room for Healing, just make sure that if you're commenting live and you want feedback, that you jump over here to Awoken TV, because Awoken TV is really where I'm going to be seeing live comments. Okay. And I love to chat with you. And I'm a generator in human design. I don't know how many of you are familiar with human design, but generators do best when we respond to the initiative brought to us. So anything you bring forward is going to assist the energy with just getting more and more amplified and exciting and magnetic. So all of that said, hi, Diane. So good to see you, honey. I hope you're doing well on this beautiful Friday. So limits versus boundaries. This is what we're going to do. We're going to talk about, I'm going to read you the different comments that people brought forward, or the different concepts, and we're going to kind of process them together. Okay. So I'm obviously going to be processing them from the space of the Akash. You guys are welcome to chime in anytime you want in the comments and just be like, hey, I don't agree with that, or oh, that makes a lot of sense, right? So we can come to a consensus. I'm pretty confident that I know where I stand on this. But let's see how this unfolds, because I'm just really like brainstorming in the Akashic energy right here live in front of you and with you. So let's do it together, okay? All right, friends. So the first comment here on limits versus boundaries is from Erica Michelle, and she says, for me, a boundary is keeping out something that I don't allow in my space or life. And a limit is more like, I'll only allow so much of this and that's it. I do very well with the boundaries. Sometimes the limits get pushed, and I feel it at the core of my being when the limit has been reached. So this is really interesting to me because I feel it's the opposite, right? Like she says, a boundary is keeping out something she doesn't allow in her space. And a limit is more like, I'll only allow so much of this. So I get that to a degree. I think I know what you're saying, and we may be on the same page here, but like this is how I see it. This is how I saw it before I really dove in and processed this a little bit more deeply, and read all these comments and put all the energy on the table together. But it's funny because I see a boundary as kind of being on the way to a limit, right? Like you set a boundary, and the boundary, this is, I think, the part that I feel like I don't fully align with Erica's statement of, for me, a boundary is keeping out something that I don't allow in my space. So really, when we set a limit, we're saying, no, like I am not, there's certain things that I will and will not accept within this space, within this energy field, right? So it's firm. I think somebody else wrote on here, like it's a line in the sand, which we'll get to later, right? And so that's what she was saying. But for me, when we're talking about boundaries, it's very, very important that we realize that the boundaries we set are not for other people in any way, shape, or form. It's not because we feel this need to protect ourselves, to take care of ourselves, to keep all of like the bad juju out, right? Like keeping the evil out. Because what that implies is that there is evil out there. What that implies is that there's this giant monster entity that's coming to get us, right? And I truly do not believe that. And I truly have not seen that in all of the spiritual traveling that I have done in the stars. Okay. We may interpret it that way based on our own lens, based on our own fears, based on the things that we are trying to justify and understand within our human lives, but that doesn't exist in the spiritual realm. Okay. So it's important for us to understand that when we set boundaries, they're permeable. Okay. Boundaries are permeable, which means that things can go out, things can go in. They're kind of flexible, right? Whereas a limit is more firm. Okay, so I see a boundary as being on the way to a limit. It's like, all right, let's see what I let in, but my limit's here, right? And I want to make sure that I have boundaries in place so that I don't reach my limit, which your limit is like, all right, I'm at my limit, which means I'm going to blow, right? Or I'm going to be a hot mess or whatever it is that's coming forward, right? And so you want to be able to be preventive about hitting your limit. We don't want to burn out. We don't want to hit our limit where we're hitting our head against a wall, right? We want to stay ahead of it. So what we want to do is put preventive boundaries in place so that we don't reach that limit. Okay. So that's how I feel about what you brought forward, Erica, when you say a limit is more like I will only allow so much of this and that's it. So that's more of a boundary, right? Like a boundary is more like, okay, I'm only going to allow some, but then once I get to the point where, all right, that's enough, then I shut that off. And then you're not going to get to your limit, right? Then you're not going to get to your limit, which is I don't allow anything in my space, right? Because when we set boundaries for ourselves versus like against other people, then what we're doing is we're maintaining our energy, right? We're maintaining our energy, and we're allowing ourselves to become a more powerful vortex within our own energy field. Because when you close it up, right, all of this energy stays within here, and it's able to gain momentum and kind of spiral upward like that kundalini energy to allow us to be empowered, to allow us to move forward and be more dynamic and have more momentum, right? So so that's how I feel about that. Let me know if you guys have any thoughts on that one. Alrighty. Rebecca, I love hers. Rebecca Randolph. She says, limits can be pushed, like a speed limit. What? Sounds like a challenge. Boundaries. Boundaries are for safety, love, protection of all things sacred. Boundaries are the orange construction cones that say the road ends, don't drive there. I think of the boundary between the road and the sea. It's crossing over into another space, dimension, or private area. My boundaries are held to keep harmony, peace, and love at play. Yes, I would agree with that. That boundary is really for you, right? It's to keep all of this playful, joyful energy here so it can gain momentum and you can share it out, right? My limits are simply lines to cross and practice breaking through, new heights to reach, uncharted territory to explore. That is such a beautiful way of looking at a limit, right? Because that's kind of like very akin to the idea of having an edge, right? Like I have my edge, and when I push my edge just a little bit, then I know that I'm going outside of my comfort zone. So it's actually a very positive spin on thinking about limits, right? They're not cutting anything out, they're not pushing anything away, right? But instead, what they're opportunity for us so that we can continue to reassess them. And boundaries and limits are reassessed on a consistent basis, I think. Sam, thank you, Laura. This is helpful. Mm. Oh, for sure. With Mercury retrograde energy and all of this time between the eclipses. Oh, Rebecca, I just talked about yours, honey. I just talked about your statement. It was so freaking awesome. Thank you so much. So, you can go back and watch it if you didn't catch it. But yeah, so anyway, all of these eclipse energies, I was saying right at the beginning, you know, the space between the lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse, right? We are in this portal right now, and there's so much that's being brought forward and excavated, and it's meant for us to heal. It's meant for us to understand the lessons. It's meant for us to move forward and get to that next level. Like we're starting a new chapter, right? Really closing out any of that old stuff. And so that's why these boundaries are totally going to come forward, like they're totally going to come forward for you where it's an opportunity for reassessment, right? An opportunity to say, like, all right, is this coming with me? Like, am I taking this with me into my next level? So that would be a really good journal prompt or just something to meditate on, Sam. All righty. So, Darlene, this one, thank you, Darlene. Darlene Sochin Maras. This one is seriously the exactly where I stand on this topic. So thank you. You and I are exactly aligned here. So Darlene says, energetically, both limits and boundaries block something. She says, I practice being an infinite being, which means if I'm an infinite being, my awareness will be heightened. So rather than setting boundaries or limits, universal laws will provide information like what I'm feeling and know what to do, or anything unwanted will not be attracted. I 110% agree with Darlene, maybe 160%. Um, that's exactly how I see this. I actually don't see a need for boundaries and limits at all when you are in full alignment. You don't even, this doesn't even need to be a discussion, right? Doesn't even need to be a discussion when boundaries and limit or for boundaries and limits when we are fully aligned with our higher self, when we know our soul's purpose, when we have clarity about the path that we are on, when we fully identify as an infinite being, not just in the spiritual dimension, because then we're neglecting the human, and we need to be integrated in both, right? We need to honor and revere the human as a sacred vessel, as a sacred experience, right? To inform our soul's path, to inform and forward our soul's purpose, right? So, anyway, I love this, Darlene, and thank you so much because what I find is when you are fully aligned and you have all of this clarity, then you're going to get messages that come into your field that dictate what you do, how you're feeling, where you go next. And those things that are not aligned are just not going to show up. Or if they aren't aligned and they're already in your life, once you become fully centered with your soul's purpose and have that clear clarity, they just fall away naturally. You don't have to set boundaries because they just fall away naturally. And you're speaking to other people entirely from a space of love and compassion. So you don't have to cut anybody out. You know that everybody that's come across your path is serving you, is fueling your path, your journey. Sherry says, but if our clients aren't fully aligned, they need boundaries. Correct. So this is how I like to look at it. And hi, Sherry. And thank you for bringing that forward. Love the discussion. So I would not say that they need boundaries. This is what I would say. What I would say, oh, yay, Joy. I knew you were going to know too. I was like, this is exactly how Joy feels. Love it. Yes, exactly, Rebecca. Yeah, they're just done. Like it's just done. And then you don't have to think and like rack your brain about what limits to set or what boundaries to set. Like it just happens, right? Because whatever's not in alignment is just going to naturally just fall away. Same thing with releasing energetic cords. So, all right, so back to Sherry's question. If our clients aren't fully aligned, they need boundaries, correct? So I say no. This is what I say. If the client isn't fully aligned, what I do is invite them into alignment. That doesn't mean I have to set a boundary with them. It's saying, this is what I witness, this is what I see, this is what spirit is bringing forward about, where you currently are and the dynamic that's existing within your field. In order to, I guess, amplify your soul purpose, move forward with your soul purpose, have clarity about next steps, I'm going to invite you to look at things this way or that way. I'm going to invite you to experience this at a different level. So it's an invitation to them because they're our clients, right? So they come to us with needs. They come to us with, um, they want guidance. They want somebody to hold their hand on this path. They would like an energetic exchange with your energy field to activate them in some way. So I personally feel like as a coach, it's my responsibility to say, I'm going to invite you into that level, right? I'm going to invite you up to that space. So let me know your thoughts on that, Sherry. Because that way you're not closing anybody out. Like they're waiting for you, right? They are coming to you. They are paying you. They are engaging with you because they want that exchange. They want that shift. They want that activation. So you're going to offer it to them. They may have resistance in the way, at which point you can say, okay, where's your hesitation there? Like what's going on there that's interfering with you fully receiving this invitation, right? So anyway, and thank you for inviting Sam. I really appreciate it. Oh, 11 on the live. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Diane. Happy birthday to my little baby girl. Hi, Layla. So good to see you. Hi, Nina. Thank you for being here. Opening the doors to another perspective. Yes, exactly, Joy. Exactly. Yeah, and you're inviting them into your vortex, right? Like, here's your vortex, and you want it to be a certain way. This is how you vibrate. This is how you operate at a certain frequency. So you can invite them into that. But if you're inviting them into that, then you're saying like, okay, this is what it looks like in my vortex, right? Like this is what it looks like. This is how it operates. You cool with that? Like you ready for that? You are you willing? You know they're ready because they wouldn't be in your field and the invitation wouldn't be there if they weren't ready because the Akashic Records doesn't do anything without that somebody isn't ready to integrate. So you know if the invitation is there, they're ready, but there may be some cognitive resistance, at which point you can say, hey, like, do you want my support? Like, do you want my assistance with moving through this resistance, with understanding it more, with taking lessons from it so that you can clear a better pathway, right? Okay, cool. So did I say hi to Melinda yet? Hi, Melinda. Thank you for the heart emoji. I appreciate it. The little heart eyes. That one makes me really happy for some reason. I feel like I'm getting a hug for somebody from somebody. Catherine, I always have a problem setting boundaries and feel that if I now set them work in relationships, I'll be viewed as difficult because I've always been too amenable, too willing, and therefore sometimes feel like I'm being taken advantage of. Welcome to my life, Catherine. That's how I felt so much as a therapist. Oh my goodness gracious. Because I have a heart of gold when it comes to helping people and taking care of people. And I was that bleeding heart social worker for a while where I was just like, oh my gosh, like I'll save everybody, I'll help everybody. And it wasn't good for me, it wasn't good for them, honestly. It really wasn't good for anybody involved. And so I would not focus on setting boundaries. I think that's too much pressure, right? And it lets you get into your head. well, then people are going to think I'm difficult. Then people are going to think this or that. Instead, what you're saying is, you know what? I'm going to turn towards myself more. I'm going to spend more time getting to know me and what lights me up and what makes me feel amazing and which clients are like my ideal clients that if I wrote it down, I'd be like, oh my gosh, these people are like, yay, my star students, kind of, right? That is you getting more and more intimate with yourself and understanding how your energy prefers to align, prefers to operate in certain situations or just in general. Primarily, I want you to find this out regardless of the environment around you. Like just what makes you tick, what lights you up, what makes you feel the most fabulous, right? And as you tune into that more and more and more, then you get to say to people that maybe might start to fall off or maybe might not communicate as much or be like, hey, what's going on with you, Catherine? Like, I haven't heard from you or whatever. And be like, well, you know what? I've actually been spending a lot of time on my personal journey. I've been spending a lot of time just like getting to know myself more, like being an even better version of myself. And so I've been taking a lot of like inward time and it just feels really good. And guess what? They're going to love it. And especially anybody who is aligned with you is going to freaking love it. And they're going to say, ooh, I want some, right? I want some. How did you do it? They're always curious, right? So let me know how that feels to you, Catherine. And then let me get back to my list here. Okay. So yeah, this was Nicole saying, I miss, I can tolerate it. I will compromise on it, but only up to my boundaries. So this one entirely is the opposite. That your boundaries, your limits are technically set in stone, right? That's your limit. It's like, nope, I can't get any further than that. And the boundary is more permeable, right? The boundary is like, okay, well, I have a boundary, but I have a little bit of wiggle room in my boundary, but my limit is my absolute last straw, right? That you do not compromise on. And the goal is to not get to the limit, right? So I see what you're saying in terms of making boundaries, it can't be crossed. But again, you're putting too much power in the people around you, right? The boundary is really for your own energy, right? The boundary, but again, you don't even need to set them if you're in alignment. You don't even need to worry about that. And I understand you've been in toxic situations as well, and toxic relationships where like, it feels like I have to protect myself. But that's like PTSD stuff, right? That's stuff to recover from PTSD, like that we feel that people are out to get us or we feel like people are after us. If we're fully aligned and fully confident and we know what we're doing and where we're going and X, Y, and Z, we don't need to feel that way. We can set up our environment in a way that really allows only this empowered energy into our vortex to gain momentum so that, you know, honestly, these people try to break through and you don't even notice them because they just kind of bounce off. They just bounce off because you're spinning so fast with your empowerment energy, not in like a hustle way, but in like a my frequency is so high. Does this make sense, guys? Sam, how can we set boundaries with family? Not wanting to discuss some subjects with them, for example. So, yeah, I mean, first of all, you share what you want to share. I got to get cozy. You share what you want to share. There's no rules that you have to share X, Y, and Z. And I know there can be expectations in families about that, right? There can be expectations about like what we share with them. So let's see what the Akash has to say. I don't want to just speak as Laura Mazzotta. I want to really co-create with the Akash here. So let me see what they say on this, okay? For you in particular. Okay, so this is what they're showing me for you, Sam. They're showing me you just saying like, thank you. Like really just being in a space of gratitude that they are interested in learning more about you. That's how you're going to receive it. Okay, you're going to receive it as, wow, like I really appreciate you showing an interest in me, in my life, right? At which point you can just be like, oh, thank you so much for asking. That's so sweet of you. That's actually something that I'm continuing to process and kind of work on internally, but I'll definitely let you know if I need support. You know, that's a beautiful way to set a boundary because what you're saying is like, I appreciate your interest in me. I appreciate that you have a desire to connect with my energy. You have a desire to learn more about me, right? Even if they're just being nosy, it doesn't matter. That's how you're going to receive it. You're going to receive it as thank you so much. And I really appreciate you asking that question. Right now, this is something that I'm kind of actually working on myself, or like I'm kind of processing this or thinking about it. So when I get clarity, I'll let you know. Or if you don't want to even make that commitment, then you just say, I really appreciate it. And if I need some support, I'll let you know. So let me know how that feels, Sam. Sherry, what do you do with a friend that insists she's aligned but clearly is not? Oh, friend. Yeah, I hear you. Mm, yeah, that's what was coming up right away, and I just wanted to tune in to confirm. But um, it's not unless she asks for your feedback and she asks for your help. That's her choice. She can choose. Like we are here as light workers to be able to guide people who are interested in walking toward the light. We are not here to drag people up from the depths of hell, right? Kicking and screaming. Because you don't want to work harder on them than they work on themselves, right? So it's really good for you to model with her, model alignment. And then when she asks you questions, you give her direct answers. Obviously, do it from a place of compassion and love and not judgment. But you can say, hey, like if you're asking, I can share my processes with you, or I can share what I see or what's coming forward. And if she doesn't like that, then that's her resistance to work through. And if she balks at it, you can say, like, it sounds like you might have some resistance. And, that wasn't, my intention is not to upset you. My intention is to encourage you forward. So let me know how that feels, Sherry. All right. Angela says boundaries to me are ever changing, dependent on circumstance, and limits are something one normally doesn't come back from, which is fascinating. I would love to hear your opinions on this, those of you who are live or even on the replay. And just type hashtag replay if you're on the replay. But boundaries are ever changing, dependent on circumstance. That I do not agree with, because that implies that boundaries are set based on the people outside of you, that you're setting your boundaries contingent upon who's coming into your field, rather than being really, really clear about who you are, how you tick, how your energy vibrates, how you operate. And then being able to say, hey, as people come forward, hey, are you in alignment with that? No? Okay, well, have a great day. Again, it's not a boundary necessarily, but it's just you being able to say, like, yeah, hey, does it match? It's like the matching game. Hey, are you a match? No? All right, have a good day. Right? And the limits are something one normally doesn't come back from. That's a very interesting one. And I would be very curious, Angela. I would love for you to do some more journaling on that, because to me, that feels like an inner child wound, something that we normally don't come back from. So, how has that unfolded, either in this life or in a previous lifetime or in your ancestors' lives? That feels deep to me, that a limit is something you don't come back from, because we are naturally extremely resilient. We are naturally extremely resourceful, and we have infinite possibility, right? So, so let me know. I would love to hear your feedback on that, Angela. Okay, Alicia. I set my boundaries and some limits have been set for me. I test and push those limits. Good for you, you little rebel. I would love to know where your Uranus is in your natal chart. But I set my boundaries and some limits have been set for me. So that's actually a fascinating concept, right? That we feel like that we feel like limits have been set for us. Happens a lot in the human world, right? Like, because we have the government, we have laws, we have requirements in, like, say, work or the medical community, or you know what I mean? Like, there's that red tape, right? That red tape that we feel like limits have been set. So let me tune in. Let me tune in and see what they have to add to this, because I have thoughts, but I just want to see what else they add to this. Yeah, okay. Right. So this is all about, again, you navigating what feels in alignment for you, right? So it's like you say you test and push limits, which probably makes you feel a little bit like a rebel, right? But it's not about that. It's just you living your truth. Like you're not trying to be this like defiant teenager. You know what I mean? Like all you're doing, because this is what I want you to remember in this case, that your intentions are good. Your intentions are coming from a heart-centered space. Your intentions are coming from an expansive space, right? And when that happens, then you're not necessarily testing or pushing boundaries. You're just advocating for what you believe in. You're advocating for the greater good and the highest good of everyone involved. And if it's like, all right, well, do I listen to the president or do I listen to spirit? You know, do I listen to my boss or do I listen to spirit? Right? That's tough. That's a tough position to be in because some people are like, oh my gosh, like I have to leave this job. You know, I can't be here in this job because it goes against my values. Okay, so what are you doing about it then? Right? It doesn't mean that it has to be black and white, like, you know, total extremes. Okay, well then I have to quit because I want to listen to spirit, right? It doesn't have to be like that where it's either or, okay? It can be that hold on. They're trying to fill this in for me. Yeah, like really what it is the universe wants to know that you are following the path that they are communicating to you. So even if it's you just start taking steps toward it, right? Like you start taking steps toward exploring not being at that job anymore, starting to put your feelers out there. More importantly, going within and being able to say, what lights me up? What do I want to be doing? If I could create the perfect job for myself, if I could create the perfect scenario, what would that look like? And of course, you can translate this over from work to another situation in your life if you want, right? But yeah, it's about translating, right, this information so that you don't feel trapped, you don't feel stuck, right? That's one of the big things here is to allow. We don't want boundaries or limits to make us feel stuck at all. The point is to help us feel free. The point is to help us feel safe and free, safely free, right? So if your limits and your boundaries aren't doing that, you need to go back to the drawing board. Okay. Hi, Angela. I don't know if you heard what I put, what was I going to say? What I talked about with your statement, but you can go back and watch the replay if you missed it about boundaries and limits. Okay. All right. So I think I'm going to do one more here and then maybe I'll finish them the next time I go live because my daughters have their dance dress rehearsal today, and I have to do their hair before 3 o'clock Eastern before they leave. So I have to get off a few minutes early today so that I can do their hair and I can finish it next time. It's crazy. I was raised being told good intentions won't get you anywhere. Ever hear that? Oh my gosh, right? Exactly. And they totally do. I came on right when you tagged me and missed what you said. Okay, honey, just go back and watch it. And what's cool is that the tag is timed at the time when I start talking about it. So you don't have to watch the whole thing if you don't want to or if you can't. Okay, so Jane, boundaries for me have been set after my limits have been pushed to a place that threatens my peace, harmony, and self respect. All right, so based on everything we've talked about today, I want to hear your feedback on this one. I'll read it again. Boundaries for me have been set after my limits have been pushed to a place that threatens my peace, harmony, and self respect. So, what have you guys learned today that allows you to respond to that with clarity? I'm calling out Joy if she's still here. I know Joy's got this. Thank you, Sherry. The recital's tomorrow. So today's the dress rehearsal, tomorrow's the recital. I always love it. It's like, honestly, it's one of my favorite things to do ever. I love watching my girls dance. Love it. Love just like watching my kids like in their glory, like just being so happy and free and just, oh, it is so beautiful. And I have to say, it's really good for my trendiness because then I get exposed to like all the new music that they're using for the dances. And then I feel trendy because I'm like, oh, I know all these cool songs now. I always come out of the recital with like a couple new, really awesome songs. Oh, Joy's not still here. That's okay. All right. So nobody wants to say it. So I will. All right, so boundaries for me have been set after my limits have been pushed to a place that threatens my peace, harmony, and self-respect. Okay, so this is a perfect example, friends, of we don't want this to happen. We do not want our boundaries to be pushed to a place that threatens our peace, harmony, and self-respect. We don't want that to happen, right? We don't want to set a boundary after our limits have been pushed. The problem is that's what the vast majority of us do. The vast majority of us set boundaries once they've been pushed or our limits have been pushed, and we feel like we want to rip our hair out and punch somebody in the face, right? That's usually when we're like, oh shit, I need a boundary here, right? We want to be able to set our boundary based on what we know of ourselves, based on what we know of our next steps, based on what we know of our path, our purpose, where we're going in this world, right? Where we're going as souls. And when we set boundaries that way, then we're preventing having our limits being pushed. We don't let people push us because we're fully aligned. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Turn more towards alignment because you know when shit blows up in your face or when somebody comes up and says something to you, you can feel right away whether that's in alignment. You know whether that's in alignment, right? And if you don't, then that is a cue for you to spend more time journaling, spend more time in meditation, spend more time more intimately connected to yourself, to your higher self, to your heart, to your core. Okay? So let me know if you guys have any questions. I'm really happy to answer them on the replay, especially if you guys tag me, I'll be able to see it. But I'm always happy to answer your questions. And I so thank you for being part of this day because it's just so much fun. Like it's so beautiful to be able to tackle these concepts with the wisdom of the Akash, with the wisdom of divine intelligence, with all of the wisdom that you guys bring forward here live or on the replay. Sam, thank you. This was so helpful. I've tried to get in my Akashic records a few times, but haven't been able to see anything. Yeah, absolutely. There could definitely be a block, and you can reach out to me. I can assist you with clearing those as well. Sorry, I've not lived in a world of boundaries or limits. My angels guide me toward the lighter side of life, towards my peace. See? Exactly. Exactly. So that's the key because Joy hasn't even had to tackle this concept because she chooses to live in that vortex. She's living proof. Yay, Joy! Oh, you're so welcome, Catherine. Thank you for being here. So, guys, I go live every Friday, but next Friday at 2:15 Eastern, I have a doctor's appointment at 2:30. So I got to figure out another time to go live so that so I can still hang out with you guys and finish this up. So just keep your eyes peeled because I'll post about what other time I'm going to be coming on to finish this up. Because I still have probably half of the feedback on this. And you know what? I'll choose a different topic if I feel like it's repetitive. I'll look over them. But I really appreciate you guys being here. And I actually just dropped an image on my timeline for the new course that's going to be starting, and it's called Bold. And I'm so excited about it. So jump over there onto my personal page and take a vote as to what you think it is, because whoever gets it right as to what this course is about is going to get a free 20-minute reading with me. And we can actually get a lot done in 20 minutes. So check that out on my personal page. Definitely join me in Room for Healing, which is my private Facebook group. And I love you. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And I'll see you so soon. You're very, very welcome. Bye, guys.